Let's take a look at the hidden power of your inner child, the part of you that wants to heal. When most people hear the term inner child, they often think of something soft, vulnerable, maybe even weak. But what if I told you that your inner child is not the problem, but actually the key to your healing? The part of you that holds the greatest capacity for emotional connection, authenticity, and change. Now, unlike the inner critic, your inner child does not think, it does not analyze, it does not problem solve, it feels. It experiences the world through emotion and through the body, through sensation, through what feels safe and what doesn't. And this part of you lives largely in the unconscious mind, which means it's active, it is influencing you, but you're not always aware of it. And here's where it becomes powerful, because your inner child is not just holding your pain, it's also holding your unmet needs. The needs to feel seen, heard, valued, safe, and loved. Needs that may not have been fully met when you were growing up. Now, in your psyche, your inner child does not operate alone. It exists in a relationship, a co-dependent relationship with your inner critic. Now, the inner critic's job, as we've explored, is to maintain familiarity, to keep your internal world consistent with what you experienced growing up. So if your early experience was once one of vulnerability, disempowerment, or not feeling good enough, then that becomes the emotional baseline. That becomes what feels familiar. And the inner critic will do whatever it can to keep that pattern in place, which means your inner child begins to move towards growth, towards expression, towards change. The inner critic steps in, it undermines, it criticizes, it creates doubt, it pulls you back, not because it wants to harm you, but because it believes it is protecting you. But in doing so, it keeps your inner child stuck in those original feelings of not enough, not safe, not important. So you end up in this internal psychic loop. The inner child feels vulnerable, the inner critic reinforces that vulnerability, and you as the adult live out the consequences in your relationships, your work, your confidence, your sense of identity. Now, here's where real change begins. It's not about getting rid of your inner critic, and it's not about forcing yourself to be confident or strong. It is about stepping into a new role, the role of the inner nurturing parent. This is the part of you that learns to relate to your inner child with empathy, with compassion and care. The part of you that says, I see you, I hear you, you matter. Because the truth is, many of us are very good at giving this to others. We can be kind, supportive, and understanding with the people around us. But when it comes to ourselves, especially the vulnerable parts of us, we struggle. Often because at some level we don't believe that part of us is worthy of love and belonging. And that belief is not random. It comes from those early childhood experiences, from what you learned about yourself in relationship to others. So the work here is to begin to give your inner child what it didn't receive growing up, what therapists often call unmet needs. To begin to reparent yourself, not in a forced or artificial way, but in a consistent, compassionate way. To notice when your inner child is activated, when you feel anxious, rejected, overwhelmed, or simply not good enough. And instead of criticizing yourself, you respond differently. You bring understanding, you bring curiosity, you bring care. And at the same time, you begin to gently challenge the inner critic, to recognize that its voice is not the truth, but is simply a learned pattern, a protective strategy that is now simply outdated. And over time, something begins to shift. The inner child no longer feels alone. The inner critic no longer has complete control, and you begin to experience a different way of being. One that is more grounded, more connected, and more aligned with who you truly are. Because the hidden power of your inner child is not just in its vulnerability, it is in its capacity to feel, to connect, and to guide you towards what you truly need. And when that part of you is supported, when it is nurtured rather than criticized, it becomes the foundation for real, lasting change. So if you want to grow, if you want to move forward, if you want to feel more like your authentic self, don't just focus on changing your thoughts or your behavior. Start by building a relationship with your inner child, because that is where the real work begins. If you'd like help building a nurturing relationship with your inner child, visit my website, book a free discovery call. Let's see what's possible.